Today I'm going to talk about reasoning with natural language processing. And let me give you a quick introduction about myself. Sankit has done a great job regarding that, but let me give a quick wrap up about that. So I'm originally from Saudi Arabia. I did my bachelor degree in information technology in one of the local universities here in Saudi Arabia. And then I did my master's in computer science in Cornell University. And then I did another master's in University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign in management information system. And then a PhD at the same university in the department of informatics. After that, I came back. I joined as an assistant professor here at one of the local universities also in the information technology department. I moved after that to Oracle as a regional consultant for AI, data science, and machine learning. It was really great doing all of this as a journey. I also have a startup in AI and data science, especially in education, training, and part of it is for raising awareness, for conducting content in Arabic language, for enriching the content in AI and data science. So for today's agenda, we'll go through 4 topics very quickly. We have time limitation, as we know, so I will try my best. As you know, as an academia, I tend to talk too much about the things I like to work on. So today we're going to talk about what is NLP, NLP applications or natural language processing applications, and then Arabic language, analyzing Arabic language, and then some resources that and tools and applications that I know that are going to be useful, and I have seen their effect in analyzing and using or working with Arabic language. So let's talk first about what is natural language processing. So this presentation, as all know, is specified for everyone. So if anyone doesn't know what is what is natural language processing, it's one of the fields that have started in computer science. And the idea of that field or of that domain is understanding the interaction between computers and humans. So, and not just human in a very big way, but just their natural language, When they are speaking, when they are talking, how can computers understand that? As we know, if we go a bit to the bigger umbrella of AI, artificial intelligence, the idea of AI since the 50s is how can I make a machine think and talk and work as a human? So how can I do that? So natural language processing is just a tiny piece of AI where how can I make machines interact with human using language? We will go through that in a bit. So when we look at it, it's the interaction between human or the language and computers. So how actually humans talk? They talk using words in different languages, of course. But how computers actually talk? They talk with zeros and ones. So how can we convert words to zeros and ones and zeros and ones to words? So here where it comes natural language processing is how can I do that conversation or that interaction between both? And in natural language processing, there is 2 subfields. One of them is natural language understanding, which is understanding how computer can understand language. And then natural language generation is where computer can generate language so human can understand that. And if we give an example is the iPhone with Siri, if we know about that, that's one of the examples. Google, machine learning translation, translating language, all of this is how, for example, how the iPhone is talking to us, and how when I speak, set my calendar, a meeting in my calendar at 8 tonight, for example, or whatever, it's going to understand what I just said. It's going to translate it to zeros and ones, and then it's going to do something in the machine, do the command that I just said, and then speak back that, okay, I have done that to you. So when we talk about natural language understanding, what do we mean by that? Similarly to Siri, Amazon, Alexa, it understands the input, the language, and then converts them to a structured data inside the machine. It does that by analyzing the different aspects of the language. It does that by analyzing the language from different perspectives, etc. Natural language generation is how the machine processes the structured data inside the machine and transfer it into or translate it into text. The text can be written or spoken, etc. But the idea is, how can I translate it to a text in the beginning? So how can I process these meaningful phrases and sentences in the form of natural language for other representations? So that involves, how can I plan the text? How can I plan the sentence? How can I plan the wordings? All of these. So natural language generation is also, it's a subdomain that concerned with how can I translate what the machine wants to say into wordings, into text sentences, and most importantly, to understand, so the human can understand the machine very well. But going back to the big picture that I referred to in the beginning, how NLP is related to AI or artificial intelligence. This is a really great picture or visualization that has integrated how artificial intelligence is related to natural language. As I put a box into the field of natural language processing. Under artificial intelligence, there is machine learning, expert systems, speech, vision, robotics, planning, and other fields. Every day we have seen how AI is integrated with multiple applications in multiple domains. But when we focus on natural language processing, it's a subfield that concerned, as we can see here, with text generation, answering questions, classification, machine translation, and we're going to go through that very quickly. Also, if we are looking at natural language processing and how it's interacting with other domains beside computer science, it's tightly integrated with linguistic. So AI is really when we integrate AI with linguistic, we will get natural language processing, because we need some linguistic experience in understanding textual data, understanding how can I interact with text data. And as we know, under the umbrella of AI, there is machine learning and deep learning. What are the applications, well-known applications of natural language processing? I will go through some of them. First is machine translation. And machine translation has been, or language translation by itself has been in our culture since very, very long. So having the machine doing the translation is one of the great examples of that. So when you enter some wordings, and a very, very strong and very powerful machine that does that is Google Translate. It has been improved through the years, and we have seen that even in the very difficult languages, specifically for Arabic, for example, it has been improved very, very widely in the past few years, translating languages from one wording to other, and especially capturing the context. And we're going to go through that as one of the challenges, actually. Another thing is text summarization. Having a very huge text, how can I extract the most important keywords, key phrases, and then creating a very summarized, very abstract of the entire article. Another example is named entity recognition. Named entity recognition is one of the domains of natural language processing. Is how can I use or understand or extract the entities out of the wordings that we have. For example, Elon Musk as a person, Facebook as an organization. Do I mean today is a date? How can I understand the person between For example, Apple, the organization, and Apple, the fruit. This is a great also summary of the language technologies that in natural language processing has been solved. They are making good progress, or they are still really hard to understand, or still really hard to and very challenging to work with. Mostly solved are, as example, spam detection, prompt-to-speech tagging, and named entity recognition. The things that are still really hard are question answering, how to make the machine, when I ask a question, is going to reply, and then I'm going to give another question, it's going to reply, etc. Which is part of having a dialogue with the machine. We are still not there yet. There is a lot of work that needs to be done there. And there was other examples. So difficulties, ambiguity. Language is very ambiguous. That's why we have a lot of difficulties in natural language processing. And there's different levels of ambiguity. If we go there, one of them is lexical ambiguity. For example, the word board, is it noun or a verb? Another ambiguity level is syntax level ambiguity. How can I resolve that? Another difficulties with working with language is referential. If I am referring to someone in my speech, how the machine can understand which person I'm referring to. And there is other difficulties related to homographs. For example, beer, is it the verb or the noun? How can I make differences between those? Apple, is it the company or the fruit? Or noisy data, spelling mistakes, etc. And when thinking about these difficulties, how can I imagine them in a different language? These difficulties are actually arise in English language. How they arise in Arabic language? As we know, Arabic language is one of the languages that are spoken by more than 360 million person around the world. So how can we understand these difficulties? Why it's hard to use natural language processing in Arabic language? First of all, there is a lot of forms of Arabic language. We have the classical Arabic, which is used for textual data, or classical historical data or text. Modern standard Arabic, which is used in news media and formal languages. And then the delicate Arabic, which is what we used in our daily life when we talk with people in different in our region. And actually, delicate Arabic is we have multiple delegates all around Arab regions, and people who speak Arabic, they have different delegates. Sometimes me from Saudi Arabia will not be able to understand, or I have difficulties understanding language. So why Arabic language is hard? I'm going to give some examples or some issues that beside what we have in other languages, the ambiguity that is arised there. Also, there is specific challenges in Arabic language itself. First, complex word structure. In Arabic, it's very complex. There is a lot of wordings that are very complex as a structure. This is one example. I have in the beginning the Arabic word. As we can see here, we have the prefix, the stem, the suffix. There is a lot of wordings inside that makes the wordings and how can we take the word itself to its root. Very difficult to be done. As we know, working with language, the easiest way is or the best way to deal with textual data is you take the stem, you take the word to its root, so you are able to understand what is this word is about. But taking it to the root, sometimes it's in Arabic language is not that easy to do by itself. Other thing is the problem of normalization. This is the letter A, the first letter in Arabic, letter Alif. This is the whole structure of this is the different ways of writing the letter A. And there is other ways of writing other wordings also. So that's one of the problems is how can I normalize that letter? How can I normalize each letter in Arabic, especially with different wordings? And that comes with the Arabic script. When I write Arabic, there is different ways of writing. We have even different ways of writing Arabic. As we can see here, all of these three sentences are saying the same word, but the problem is I'm writing it in different ways. And actually, because here it's in a computer, sometimes if I'm trying, for example, a complicated situation, when I have handwriting, when we write Arabic, we have different ways of writing. Some of them are very artistic. So how can I extract the wording out of a handwriting? That's a really difficult challenge for Arabic. So all of these three wordings, I have the letter A, as we can see here, in different structures of different writing, with other ways of writing the letter itself. Another issue is morphology. Morphology also, when I have a word, even if I wrote that word in its root, for example, all of these letters or all of these words have this root. So how can I know if this word actually means, how can I extract that meaning? Because when I take it to the root, I want to have the meaning extracted. But for example, this word is kataba, which is he wrote something. But when all of this wording, this is, for example, kitab, this is a book. So when I take the root of a book, it means writing. So when I take everything to its root, it's not the right way of doing it. There's a problem with understanding the language. Even this is maktaba, which is library. If I take the root of library, it's going to be writing. He wrote something or writing. So there is the problem of morphology. When I take the wording to its root, I'm losing the meaning of the word itself. So that's another challenge that need to be investigated or need to be worked with. And many others. To summarize also, this is writing Arabic numbers or wordings. I write from left to right, versus in English is right to left. So sorry, it's the way it's all the way around. In Arabic, we write from right to left. In English, we write from left to right. So that's another issue. So the writing, even the writing is from in different ways. Even the numbers, we write them from the way around, also different than the English language. Another thing is the feminine marker. In Arabic, we have a feminine marker when I talk about or when I describe an object. For example, big, and big describes both male and female. For example, big book, for example. In Arabic, it's different. I have a feminine marker, kitab kabir, kitab, if it's a feminine, for example, object, warda kabira, مثلا, for example. So for that, that's another issue, that how to differentiate between objects that have feminine marker and it doesn't. Another issue is proper name spelling. When I differentiate, for example, Schwarzenegger, that's one word written in English. If I translate that into Arabic, or I try to write it in Arabic wording, I'm gonna have more than 4 actually than the one that I've written. I'm gonna write it in a very different way. If I give that word to 100 people, I'm gonna have 100 different way of writing just that word. Especially also the wording of different objects. Some people have, for example, tomato in Arabic, people say that word in using different wordings, either adding one more letter or removing one more letter, or even changing the name in a different. And all of them are speaking Arabic, actually. Lastly is recognizing Arabic versus other languages that are using the same Arabic letter. So there is, for example, Persian or Urdu. These are actually other languages, but they are using the same letters that we are using in Arabic. So how can I differentiate between these wording? So that's also another issue that we have here. We have while dealing with Arabic language is recognizing Arabic from different languages. So to sum up, or to give a hope, these are some resources that the researchers and brilliant people have worked with many tools to try to understand Arabic language and try to help with understanding or analyzing and introducing many solutions to these challenges that I just talked about. Besides, there is many other challenges that we have to work with anyway, but these are one of the some of the tools that are available online, easy to use, libraries, Python libraries, using BERT technologies, using all of them are actually available in GitHub and very easy to find and allocate to be able to analyze and understand textual language, or specifically Arabic textual language, either analyzing them, doing summarization, tokenization, part-to-speech tagging, all of the natural language processing techniques that need to be done. So with that, I end my presentation. Thank you so much for your time and listening. There is maybe 1 or 2 minutes for answering questions if there is any. If anybody have any question in the QA or in the chat, we'll be happy to answer them. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Aseel. That was a great presentation. So I think we have our first question. The question goes from Luis. It's like, do you train embeddings and do you use any tricks there?
Okay, so yes, of course, using embeddings in natural language processing is one of the well-known applications for understanding language and trying to build models regarding, for example, for text generation or text understanding. So one of the things I have worked with before is trying to understand, trying to extract actually the root of the words and trying to know what is the best way of extracting, transferring them into embeddings and using that for text generation or text understanding. And there was another question I also have seen here related, which, do you have any specific Arabic trained BERT in Hugging Face? For myself, I don't, but I have seen a lot of trained Arabic specific trained BERTs in Hugging Face, and I can share some of them in Slack channel that after the talk.
Oh, thank you. So just to give attention to everyone that we have Slack channels for all the talks and workshops. Like every workshop has a dedicated Slack channel, but we don't have a dedicated Slack channel for talks. But if you like to, like if the speaker wants to have a dedicated talk channel, we can create one. Or you could just go in the talks Slack channel and ask a question over there. So there's another question by Guilio, which goes like, very interesting and excellent delivery. Any public data set you would recommend exploring?
Sorry, can you say that plain?
Yeah, they are asking any public data set you would recommend exploring. I'm sure they're referring to the Arabic data set.
Yes. So on top of my mind, there is a lot of data in for Arabic, especially social media data. So if you wanted very challenging Arabic textual data, social media is the best, because people there are writing Arabic in using there's a lot of spelling mistakes. There's a lot of normalization to be done. There's a lot of understanding of human speech there. Easier Arabic language textual data is going to news articles using Google API or Google News API, etc. Or another example is using, for example, books, textual books, or I have seen a great example using Arabic language with poetry, Arabic poetry. That's also another great training data to play with. But for me, I really like social media because part of my work is understanding psychology or behaviors, understanding human behaviors while writing through the language they are writing.
Awesome. So we're gonna take one last question, which is by Suri, which is how do you handle speaker diarization?
So you understand my question, right?
Yeah, clear right now. Sorry.
Sure.
So, yeah. When dealing with dialogue, anyway, one of the first techniques that I have seen people using is when you have a full stop, that's the sentence, that's the end, or using exclamation mark or question, that's the end of. So the one of the ways when we're using that with a dialogue is understanding where the context is stopped. One of the easiest ways is having question mark. When I have a question mark, that means I'm waiting for a response. But the problem is when I don't know when I can separate it, when I don't know if there is no question, for example, when that person have stopped and he's waiting for an answer. I think what I have seen now from all of the studies or the research has gone with is using punctuations, especially if it's written text. Punctuation is always the right way always the best way or the easiest way to separate the dialogue. Beside that, I don't have knowledge more than that regarding how to understand where the dialogue will stop. I think we will need someone who is an expert in dialogue understanding or have worked with dialogues to be able to answer such question. But from what I have stopped, I think that's the easiest way is to see where is the usage of punctuations and especially in writing.
I'm pretty sure there are many qualified data scientists or professionals in the whole attendees list, for the global.
Yeah, if someone has a better answer, I'm happy. I would like to learn. But as I said, natural language processing is a very big field, and there is a lot of experts here we are here to learn from each other. So
awesome, thank you. Thank you, Aseel, for the presentation. It was a pleasure to have you, and I really enjoyed it. So that brings us the end of the presentation for this one.